I'm Steve Turano with Ask a Real Expert. This video answer is going out to Kelly. Her and her husband are eating better, eating healthier, exercising, and losing weight. She's got 3 questions. Her first question is, can I lose fat from a specific part of my body? And the answer is no. There's no such thing as spot reducing. I don't care how many lunges you do, how many crunches you do, how many bench presses you do, you can't suck fat off a specific part of your body. Remember, fat is sort of like blood. There's no such thing as finger blood or leg blood. Blood goes everywhere. Same thing with fat, believe it or not. So when you create a calorie deficit, your body pulls fat from your entire body, whether it's from your face, your hands, your arms, your legs, your stomach, your rear end. So you can't spot reduce. And typically people see the greatest amount of changes in areas where they don't have a lot of fat. Their face, their neck, and usually they see the least amount of changes in the areas where they store a lot of fat. Women store it on their legs and their hips and butts. Guys store it around their stomachs. Second question is, you want to use a trampoline for exercise. I'd be using it for something else, because it's not really that good for exercise, because you're kind of bouncing up and down. I mean, it would be better just to go outside and walk and jog. The impact of jogging would tone your legs much more than a trampoline. I'm sure it's fun, and if you want to incorporate that in, but I would not think of it as weight training or weight loss. Again, when we get too creative with our workouts, they become less effective. It's diet, plain and simple, easy cardio, walking, jogging, running, Stairmaster, elliptical if you like that, and then simple, basic, easy weight training. It's the 3. They're not fun, but they do work magic if you do them consistently enough. Now your third question is about liposuction. What are my thoughts on liposuction? Well, this is really what liposuction surgeons or plastic surgeons should be telling you before they think about taking your money. We have more or less an established number of fat cells in our body. They occur when we're young, and typically we keep the same amount. Now, we can make those fat cells smaller, and they can even disappear if we diet well enough. And if we eat too much, those fat cells can even replicate and become bigger or duplicate and split into 2. But here's what you have to remember, and let me give you an analogy. Let's say you had a table, and it was a big table, and on that table you spread out a bunch of books. Because the table is relatively big, your thickness of books would be relatively thin, because the books could be spread out all over a big table. Now if you made that table smaller, but you had the same amount of books, the thickness of the books would then get greater, because the table to spread them out over was smaller. And that's the way fat cells work with liposuction. If you have liposuction and you don't decrease your calorie intake, now you have fewer fat cells to spread those calories over. So now you're going to get greater fat accumulation in the fat areas or the fat cells that are remaining. So I've seen this a million times. Women have their hips and rear end liposuction and their waist liposuction, and they look great. But then they don't alter their eating. Now pretty soon they end up having a fatter face, or they end up getting fat on their backs and things like that, because there's less fat cells in the legs to store those additional calories. So these are things you have to be aware of. If you're going to have liposuction, you're going to have to decrease or change your eating habits, because those additional calories that are unused will then be stored in those areas that have the remaining fat cells, and those areas can become even fatter and look even stranger. Here's what I would do. I would get down to my ideal weight, whatever that was, or whatever you want to call it, your ideal conditioning. And then I would try to maintain that for 3 to 6 months and find out how much effort it took. If you're talking about bodybuilding contest shape, you can't maintain that for 3 to 6 months. It's too hard. Too much eating, nothing, and too much cardio. But if you pick a weight, whatever that is, and a conditioning, and you say, you know, I can live with this. You know, I can fluctuate a little bit, but I can stay right around that weight with this amount of effort and this diet. If you can do that for 6 months, then I would say, go ahead and get the liposuction. But if you can't maintain that target weight, you better find a target weight that you can handle with regards to cardio, exercise, and eating before you get the liposuction. Because remember, those additional calories will not go away with liposuction. Those additional calories will just be stored in the remaining fat cells, causing you and those areas to become even fatter. I'm Steve Turano. Ask a real expert.